Hi, welcome to my video on solving equations with rational expressions, part 2. Part 1 was when the solution, or the solving the equation, came out to be a linear, which was one solution. In this one, we will solve them where the solutions, or solving the equation, will be a quadratic with degree 2, so we'll have two solutions. So let's go through the rules. Solve equations with rational expressions. We're going to factor the denominator, find the restrictions, find the LCD, multiply all fractions by the LCD, cancel the denominators, solve the equation, check for extraneous roots, and state the solution. We also might add, add on the opposite. Is add on the opposite when you're subtracting. I try to remember to eliminate the subtraction sign. Equations in this video have two solutions because they're going to be quadratic. That is, the equation is going to be x squared plus 4x equals 0, or x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. So it has an x squared that you're going to solve for equal to 0, so you're going to get two solutions. Let's do some examples. Solve each for x. Well, we have equations with denominators, so what we do, we have to make sure the denominators are factored, because if you don't factor your denominators, you're not going to pick up the LCD. So the denominator is factored. Instead of writing all this down again, I just wrote this denominator down below here. Save myself time and space. Now we have no subtraction, so we don't have to add on the opposite. Denominators factored. The restrictions. The restriction is x plus 1 equals 0, so x minus 1 is the restriction. What do you mean by restriction? It's the value of x that makes the denominator 0. And the LCD is going to be a 4 and an x plus 1. And this has a denominator of 1, and this has a 4 and an x plus 1, so the LCD. So what we do, we multiply each fraction. 4 times x plus 1 times the fraction. 4 times x plus 1 times the fraction. 4 times x plus 1 times the 2, or 2 over 1. 4 times x plus 1 times the fraction. And since we have each fraction multiplied by the LCD, that means every denominator should cancel if you have it done right. 4 cancels into 4, so we have an x times x plus 1. The x plus 1's cancel, so we have a 4 times 2. There's no cancellation here, so we get 2 times 4 is 8, so it is 8 times x plus 1. The 4 and the x plus 1 cancels, so I get a plus 18. So what we do now is simplify each side. So we get x squared plus x plus 8, 8x plus 8 plus 18, and the left side is simplified. The right side is 8x plus 26. Now we notice we have an x squared. We have to bring all of our variables x to the left side. So descending order is x squared plus x minus 8x. And we have a 26 minus, I'm going to bring everything to the, that's 0. I'm bringing everything to the left side equal to 0. So that gives me x squared minus 7x minus 8 from 26 is 18. And because we have an x squared equal to 0, we will factor. This is a quadratic, and a quadratic has two factors. So x squared is x and x. The factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. This is the product of negative 18. So the product is negative 18, and the sum is negative 7. So the product of 18 to give you a 7. 18 and 1, no, 6 and 3. So 2 and 9 are the factors. So 2 and 9 are the factors. But the product is negative, so I have to have a negative and a positive. So I'll have a negative 9 and a positive 2. And we have two factors, so x plus 2 equals 0. X minus 9 equals 0. So x equals negative 2, x equals 9. And so the restriction is negative 1. So the solution to this problem is negative 2 and 9. So that's the solution. These are the two solutions. Let's put an and here. So negative 2 and 9. I don't want to use a comma because a comma could be replaced or miscued as x and y values. So negative 2 and 9 are the two solutions that make this equation true. Okay, let's continue. Another example. Again, we have there's no subtraction, so no opposite. The restrictions, let's look at the restrictions. So the restrictions are x minus 2, so we got a 2. X plus 1, negative 1. So that's the two restrictions. Remember, what do you put in the place of x to give you 0? Or you let it equal to 0 and solve. You got a 2 and a negative 1. So the restrictions, now we got to work out the LCD. So the LCD, it has to be an x minus 2 and an x plus 1. Because you got to have both of these as a factor of x minus 2, x plus 1. So that means we multiply by x minus 2 times x plus 1 multiplied by each fraction. So I put it up at the top so I don't have to write the equation down again. Just want to save time. So there's my LCD multiplied by each fraction. Every denominator should cancel. Gone. So I get x times x plus 1. X plus 1 cancels, and I get a positive 5 times x minus 2. And this doesn't cancel, so I get a 3 times x minus 2, x plus 1. So now we simplify each side. So x times x plus 1 is x squared plus x. 5 times x minus 2 is 5x minus 10. Now right here, I'm going to multiply by the two binomials first. So I'm going to do this fast. So here we go. I'm going to do it right up here. X times x is x squared. Negative 2 times positive 1 is negative 2. Outside is 1. Inside is negative 2. So that's negative 1x. Now I multiply the two binomials first. Then I multiply by the 3 after. So 3 times x squared. 3 times negative x. And 3 times negative 2. Now we have to simplify this side. Remember, if you simplify each side and then transpose it, you have less terms to deal with. So I have all the variables will go on the left side in descending order. So notice, and all the numbers, everything moves to the left side equal to 0. And this is discussed fully in the section on solving quadratics. This is another unit. Quadratic unit is a long unit on the parabola. Descending order, so we simplify. We got a negative 2x squared plus 9x minus 4 equals 0. I do not like to have a negative, so I'll multiply both sides. I multiply the whole equation by negative 1. So 2x squared minus 9x plus 4 equals 0. I can multiply the equation by negative 1. That means my leading term is not negative. Now, we have to factor, but we can't factor. 2 is not a GCF. So here we go. The product is 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. And the sum is in the middle, negative 9. Factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Which pair gives you a 9? Has to be 1 and 8. The product is positive 8 because of 2 times 4. Sum is negative, so that means we have to multiply two signs that are the same. So it's two negatives, multiply to give you positive and add to give you negative. So we go 2x squared minus 1x minus 8x plus 4. Notice I took the negative 1, the negative 8, put it in the middle, right here, adds up to negative 9. So I take an x out, so I get 2x minus 1. Take a negative, whatever that sign is there, this is what this one will be. And I see a 4 as a GCF. So negative 8x divided by negative 4 is 2x. Positive 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1. So I get a 2x minus 1 times x minus 4. So that's the factorization. Again, this factorization is done on the side over here. So now we put the answer, instead of putting all this down here, I put it over on the side. Now we got 2x minus 1 equals 0, or we got x minus 4 equals 0. 2x equals 1, and we divide by 2, we get x is 1/2. And right here we get x is 4. So the restrictions are 2 and a negative 1. None of these numbers are, so there's no clash here, so I can use these two. So the solution is 1/2 and 4. That's the solution to this problem. Again, notice the equation has a quadratic. When we have a quadratic, we make it equal to 0 and factor. That's one way. All the ones that I do on this video will be able to factor. But if we can't factor, then there are other ways to handle it. But we're not going to discuss that. That's in quadratics. C, we have three fractions, we have subtraction. So instead of subtracting, I always add on the opposite first. Get rid of the subtraction by adding on the opposite. Now we have to factor our denominator, so it's 2 outside of x minus 1, 2 outside of x minus 3. And what do you think the odds are? Those two might be the factorization of this. Let's see. X times x, x squared, plus negative 1 times negative 3 is 3. Add, and I get a negative 4. So it happens to be that these two binomials are the factorization of this. And so that means, let's see what the restrictions are. Always look at the restrictions when you're solving equations. Restrictions are 1 and 3. 1 gives you 0, 3 gives you 0 in your denominator. Since those are the same, we don't have to look at them. Now, the restrictions, so now we got to find the LCD. We got to have a 2 and an x minus 1. And we got to have an x minus 3. So all of these, 2 and x minus 1 is right here. 2 and x minus 3 is here. X minus 1, x minus 3 is right there. So that's the LCD. So 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 1, x plus, x minus, minus 3. 2 times x minus 1, x minus 3. 2 times x minus 1, x minus 3. And 2 times x minus 1, x minus 3. So the LCD is multiplied by all fractions. There we go. Just put it in brackets. And we cancel. The 2 cancels. The x minus 1 cancels. So I get an x minus 3 times x plus 3. The 2 cancels. The x minus 3 cancels. So I get a 1 times x minus 1. The x minus 1's cancel. X minus 3 cancels. So I get a 2 times negative 1. And this expression times 0 will give you 0. So notice I wrote this down so you can see it, and it makes it so when you take the x minus 3 and write it down times x plus 3, now you have it in front of you. It's easy to do. So I get an x squared. The outside is negative 9. And so, sorry, the last term is negative 9. The outside is 3. The inside is negative 3, gives you 0. 1 times x, 1 times negative 1. 2 times negative 1 equals 0. So I get an x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. Again, notice we have a quadratic. We have two factors. And the factors that every equation in this, what we're working out here in this video, will be factorable. So x squared is x and x. The factors, the product is negative 12. The sum is 1. Remember, that's a 1 there. When there's a 1, we can have two x's. When that's a 1, that's the product, and that's the sum. So factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Which factors give you a 1? 12 and 1, no. 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And we got a 3 and a 4. We're multiplying to get a negative 12, so we have to have a plus and a minus. So it's a minus 3 and a plus 4, because when you multiply, you get negative 12, add, you get plus 1. So x minus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 4 is equal to 0. X is 3, or x is negative 4. And the restrictions, look what happens. I have a 1 and a 3, but a 3 is here. So I can't use that 3. Why? Because that 3 will give me a 0 in this denominator. So I can't use that. So the only answer to this problem is the negative 4. And that's what happens when you multiply a fraction. When you multiply fraction by an algebraic expression, you're creating extra roots or solutions that you can't use. So the solution to this problem is only the negative 4. You can't use the 3. If you didn't do this and you solved it, let's say you solved it without doing the restrictions. Let's say you forgot. When you get this done, you take the 3 and you say, can I use it? And it gives you 0 here, you can't use it. And the 4, you can. So doing the restrictions helps you to get the question right. Practice. Let's practice. And we have to go with, just make sure, no fractions. Nope. We have to factor the denominators. They're already factored. And we have to find the LCD. And the LCD, 3 and x and 5, is 15x. The LCD is right there. So we multiply 15x by the first one, 15x times the second one, and 15x times the third one. So the denominators should cancel. 3x into 15x is 5, so we get a 5 times 2. 5 into 15x is 3x, so we get a 3 times x plus 1. 15x cancels, we get a 16. And I said that all of these would come out to be quadratics, but I didn't have this one to be a quadratic. This one only has, as you can see, one answer. Because I said notice I forgot I said 3, but I didn't pick up the x. So it does have a quadratic. So I got to be careful. I canceled this out, and I didn't write down, I just wrote down a 3 instead of 3x. So it does have a quadratic. So descending order, bring the 16 over, make it a negative equal to 0. 3x squared plus 3x minus 6 equals 0. Now, I can factor out the 3, or I can divide all the sides by 3. Two choices. I will do both of them. Show you. I can factor the 3 out, because 3 is a GCF. I get x squared plus x minus 2. And that leads me to x squared is x and x. Factors of 2 are 2 and 1. The product is negative. Sum is positive, so I got a plus 2 minus 1. So x equals 0, can't do. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. X is negative 2. X is 1. Notice now, I didn't do the restriction. So if I look at the x minus 2, it's okay. 1 is okay in the denominator because I don't get a 0. So the solutions is negative 2 and 1. But if I do the restriction that I should have done at the beginning, the restriction is 0. 0 is the only number of giving a 0 in the bottom. Because if you let 3x equals 0 and divide by 3, you get a 0. So these are the two solutions. Even though I didn't do the restriction, I forgot, but you could. You would check to see if negative 2 is okay in the denominator. That's a negative 6. That's a negative 30. Put a 1 in, you get a 3, and a 15 is okay. So these are the two solutions. Number 2, we have no subtraction, so no negative to add on. We have factor denominators done. We got to find the restrictions. So let's do the restriction just to make sure. The restrictions are negative 2 and 2. And the LCD is x plus 2, x minus 2. So we multiply x plus 2 times x minus 2. X plus 2 times x minus 2. Every one of them is multiplied by x plus 2, x minus 2. And we have it multiplied, so now we cancel. So we get 12 times x minus 2. We cancel x minus 2. We get an x times x plus 2. And there's no cancellation here, so we get 4 times x plus 2, x minus 2. Now we simplify each side. 12 times x, 12 times negative 2, x times x, x times 2. Now, when you multiply these, again, I'm going to multiply, I'm not going to write all these down. I'm going to multiply these two binomials first. That's an x squared. And plus 2 minus 4 is a minus 4. Plus 2 minus 2 is minus 4. Outside is negative 2. Inside is plus 2, gives you 0. So that ended up to be 4x squared minus 16. Again, I multiply these two on a sheet of scrap paper and then multiply it by 4. Put it here, so it saves you time in writing it all down. We simplify the left side. We get an x squared plus 14x minus 24. Both sides are fully simplified. Now we move all the variables in descending order to the left side. Descending order, put the squares first. This moves over to become a negative. The 16 moves over to become a positive. That gives me a negative 3x squared minus 14x minus 8. And I have a negative, so I'm going to multiply it by negative to get a positive coefficient. I have a positive leading coefficient. And again, the 3 can't come out, so product is 3 times 8, 24. The sum is negative 14. 24 is 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8. 12 got a 4, so it's a 4 times 6. So which pair of factors are going to give me a 14? No. 2 and 12. And the product is positive, and the sum is negative, so I got to have two negatives. So that's 3x squared minus 2x minus 12x plus 8. Grouping, so it's an x outside of 3x minus 2, negative, whatever that sign is there, that's what that one is. 4 is the GCF, so I get a 3x minus 2. Negative 4 into negative 12 is 3. 8 into 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. And notice that both of these, 3x minus 4 is common. So what's left? X. What's left? Negative 4. So this is 3x minus 2 times x minus 4. And we let each of these equal to 0 and solve. 3x equals Negative 2 becomes plus 2 divided by 3. X is 2/3. And negative 4 moved over to become 4. Restrictions are 2 and negative 2. None of these are the restrictions, so the solution to this problem is 2/3 and 4. So if you had time, if you take the 4 and put it back here and here and here, put the 4 in, work this side out, you'll get a 4. If you take the 2/3 and put it in and work all these out, you should get a 4. Okay, let's continue. And practice, you know what practice means in all the videos, you know by now, if you're used to it. Practice means pause your video, work out the answer, see if you're going to get it right, and then press play. Okay, here we go. What's the pattern? Any subtractions? Yes. Add on the opposite. Done. Now we got to factor our denominators. So what's the odds? Are these two going to be the factorization of this? Let's check. X times x, x squared. Outside. The last. Positive 2 times negative 1, negative 2. Outside is negative 1. Inside is plus 2. Plus 2 minus 1 is right. So that's the factorization. Again, check. Normally, you don't have a lot, but make sure that this product is this. And if you are, then let's check the restrictions. Let's write down the restrictions. What's the restrictions? Negative 2 and 1. So we got a negative 2 and 1 are restrictions. And now let's pick up the LCD. The LCD is x plus 2 times x minus 1. So that means x plus 2 times x minus 1 is multiplied by each fraction. Done. X plus 2 times x plus minus 1. Done. X plus 2 times x minus 1. Done. X plus 2 times x minus 1. So roll it down 4 times. Cancel. X plus 2 cancels, so I get x minus 1 times x plus 1. The x minus 1's cancel, so I get a negative 5 times x plus 2. 2 of these cancel, so I get, that's a 1. So that's a 1 times 9x plus 6. And 0 times this expression, 0 times any number is 0. Multiply by FOIL, I get an x squared. The last terms is a minus 1. And the outside is 1, inside is negative 1, it gives you 0. Negative 5x minus 10 plus 9x plus 6 equals 0. And we're going to simplify. X squared first. Add up the x's, I get a 4x. And 6 and 10, that makes that a negative 5. That's a negative 11, add on 6 is negative 5. Factorable, remember, notice, I got x squared, so x squared is x and x. Factors of 5 are 5 and 1. And product is negative, so I have to have a plus 5 minus 4. When you add these two, it gives you a 4. When you multiply, you get negative 5. That's the product, and that's the sum. And x plus 5 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. And you got x is equal to negative 5. X is equal to 1. And we have a 1 here and a 1 here. So a 1 is a restriction. I can't use the 1 because a 1 will give me a 0 in this denominator. So the solution to this problem is only negative 5. It's the only value of x that will make this equation true. And let's continue. Ooh, we have a long one. A long one doesn't make any difference. It means we're going to have to be very careful on what we do. Let's see. When we subtract, we add on the opposite. So let's add on the opposite. So that's make that a plus. That's a minus. That's a plus. And that's a plus. So we add it on the opposite. And we got another subtraction. So we add on the opposite. So I have no subtractions, only additions. And it's best to deal with addition. But that's the way I handle it. It makes the math easier. But a lot of teachers will not add on these opposites. But I can't control, or I can't convince you, whatever you wish to do. Here we go. Now we have to factor our denominators. So this is an x and an x. Factors of 3 are 3 and 1 minus 3 plus 1. It's the factorization. Notice this one right here, and I'll work out this one. Notice I have a 2. I'm going to go down here and work it. So I have a 2x squared minus 4x minus 6. There it is. I see 2 as a GCF. Notice the 2 can come out. So if the 2 can come out as a factor, divide by 2. X squared minus 2x minus 3. Now this might be factorable, as x and x, factors of 3 are 3 and 1. It's negative, so its product is negative 3, so it's a negative 3 plus 1. So I did all that factoring on the side because I didn't want to write down this equation. Factorization here is 2 times x plus 1. Factorization here is 2 times x minus 3. So what's the restrictions? So the restrictions are 3 and a negative 1. 3 and a negative 1. 3 and a negative 1. Negative 1, 3. And what's the LCD? I got to have an x minus 3x plus 1, x minus 3, x plus 1, and I got to have the 2. 2 is there, x plus 1 is there, 2 is there, x minus 3 is there. So it just takes a while to write this down now. So it's 2 times x minus 3, x plus 1. 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 So I got 4 fractions, 4 multiplications. So every denominator should cancel. Yep. So I have a 2 times x minus 4. And 2 cancels, the x minus 3 cancels, the x plus 1 cancels. So I get negative x, because that's a 1. Well, I could write down 1 times that, but there's a 1 here, so 1 times that just gives you this. 2 cancels, x plus 1 cancels, so I get x minus 3 times x plus 3. And 2 cancels, x minus 3 cancels, so I get a negative 4. Let's make that negative. There's a negative 4 there. Negative 4 times x plus 1. I put this in the way, but sorry about that. That should be going right across there. Now let's multiply. 2 times x, 2 times 8, negative x squared plus x plus 4. FOIL on this is x squared, and again, that's a plus 3x minus 3x is 0, so that's a negative 9. Negative 4x minus 4. And tidy up this side, negative x squared and plus 3x minus 4. Tidy up this side, x squared minus 4x minus 13. Now we move all the variables to the left, negative x squared minus x squared plus 3x plus 4x minus 4 plus 13. Because I have an x squared, I have to move all the variables and the numbers to the left side in descending order equal to 0. So that gives me a 2x squared plus 7x plus 9 equals 0. And again, I'll multiply by negative 1. So I get a 2x squared minus 7x minus 9. I do not want a negative coefficient. So I multiply everything by negative 1 to get rid of it. And the factorization, the product is 2 times negative 9 is negative 18. The sum is negative 7. So the factors of 18 to give me a 7 is 2 times 9. And I have to have a plus 2 and a minus 9. Because when you multiply these, you get negative 18. When you add, you get negative 7. So we got a 2x plus 2x squared plus 2x minus 9x minus 9. 2x comes out. give me x plus 1. There's a negative here, so that's a negative. A 9 is a GCF, so that's an x plus 1. So that's an x plus 1 common. What's left? 2x. What's left? Negative 9. So that's an x plus 1 times 2x minus 9 is the factorization. So we have two answers, x plus 1 equals 0, or 2x minus 9 equals 0. X equals negative 1, 2x equals 9, and you divide by 2. X is 9 over 2. Restrictions. Oh, again, there's a negative 1 right here, and there's a negative 1 here. So you can't use the negative 1. Why? Because a negative 1 in this denominator will give you 0. So the solution to this problem is 9 over 2. The solution is 9 over 2 only. So that's a long one, but notice the pattern, how I worked it out. And, follow the pattern. Make sure you know what you're doing. And if you like my video, click the like button, the subscribe button, and notification bell. Visit my website at www.mathfullyexplained.com to find more information about me, my video, and the content. That's the content that's on my YouTube channel, Math Fully Explained. Remember, you have to be able to factor. So look up my unit on factoring 1 and 2 and be able to factor fast. Factoring is extremely important. Thank you for viewing my video.